Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. You might notice that something's a little bit different if you're watching. Where are we?
We look a little cozy.
We look cozy. I don't know. We're watching you, by the way.
No, I meant if
they
you're
look
watching,
a little cozy watching
what
us.
are they doing? That's creepy. With technology.
Yeah, with technology, it can be kind of creepy. But we are in our second living room.
No,
What do we call this thing?
This is the family room.
I thought that would be the family room over there.
That's the playroom.
Well, there's two sides to the playroom then.
That's the playroom, and
We're having trouble identifying what rooms we have in our house because it's very long, and it's long in two rooms.
well, the problem is it's funny because you want like an open space, like open concept, right?
Yeah, but then
when you actually have it, you're like, okay, so how do you like put this area over here and this area over here, because now it's just one big blob.
Yeah, if you have like more than two kids, there's no such thing as open concept. Everything is a closed concept because you start loading things and adding stuff to everything.
Yeah.
But we're currently in our family room, as Willow said, and we are, we're trying to figure out a time to do the podcast this week and kind of connect. We've both been super tired. Willow's been back to work for a couple weeks now. 3 weeks, 4 weeks? How long have you been back?
It's been like a month, I think.
Man, it's been a month since she's been back. It seems like a year. It seems like it's just tiring. But we've had a lot of things going on and just kind of juggling life, and we thought we'd connect with you guys. And, this isn't going to be the typical podcast that we normally do with 5 points. So if you're waiting for 5 points, they're not coming unless she comes up with 5 points on the spot. And if you know Willow, she's not coming up with 5 points on the spot.
Nope, because I got to make sure it fits and matches. And
I might come up with 5 points on the spot and then take over the podcast because that's what I'm good at.
And then I would be like, let's reorganize that.
Yeah, let's rephrase that. Let's re-record that. I didn't like the way that I looked, but it has been a busy past few weeks, and even this last week, it seems like time is just going by really fast. And even watching the kids grow up, it's kind of crazy. So we told you last week about the garage sale that we took the kids to, and one of the things that we got was a microphone. And we already had two microphones. One was those plastic ones that you talk into and they echo and they kind of reverberate. And then we had another one that was given to us by one of Ryland's friends when she was going to a preschool, and she got a Motown microphone that plays Motown Funk. And so this past week we have 3 microphones now, and the kids have been constantly singing them, and it's interesting to see what they've been singing. I don't know. Have you thought that it was interesting at all?
Well, I thought it was interesting, but also I love it because this morning when I was working, you came in and you brought me coffee. That's when it was. And I was like, what is that noise? And you're like, they're singing out there. I was like, oh, they're singing? And you're like, they're singing. I don't know what the song was, but it was worship music. And I listened. I'm like, oh, get the camera out. Are you recording this?
It's actually Ryland leading the rest of them, and she's like, okay, this is what we're doing next. This last week, I took the kids to go grab a crate. They call it a crate of strawberries.
Oh, they call it a crate?
They call it a crate.
Ryland was learning her words, and a flat was in her, words to learn. And so I was talking about the flat strawberries. No wonder she looked at me like I was like, what's a flat, Mom?
Well, on the phone, when you call them and you say, hey, they say what they have, and they're like, yeah, we've got pints, and then we have crates. And I was like,
pints?
Crates? Yeah, because the little things are pints.
Oh.
I think they're called pints. I don't know. We're all in different places. She learned in Florida. I learned it here in Oregon. We call them pints, I think.
I feel like that should be
ice cream.
Or that.
Yeah, but it's actually been pretty cool to hear them sing, and we do normally have music playing at the house, but what was interesting is I had worship music playing, but they were singing a completely different song. They were doing their own worship session. So it's been kind of cool to kind of see that happening.
Yeah, definitely. And then you got one of them who has banging it on the floor, and I'm like, what's that noise? Oh, that's the microphone. Don't bang it.
Is that the real one or is that the fake one?
It was both, but at one point it was the real one because I heard this weird noise, and I'm like,
that's the same child that's been eating the microphone.
Yeah, why is this wet?
Why is
soaked?
Must be a tenor. For all of you tenors out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Not me. I'm musically
Challenged.
Yeah,
she's very musically challenged.
Do not want to hear me sing.
But it's been interesting, even the past couple weeks. I think even actually really this last week, we've been very intentional to do family worship at night, right?
Yeah, definitely. We always kind of did it here and there, but we always had like something like postponed bedtime. So it's like, oh, got to push it back. But we've been pretty intentional about making sure it's been happening, even if it was 2 songs or 5 songs, just.
Or 1 song.
Or 1 song.
And they're like, no, we need more. And it's like, no, it's like 8 o'clock. It's time. It's way past, like 2 hours past your bedtime.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually something that we've kind of been learning is flexibility. We're pretty much on a schedule, especially when it comes to getting them in bed. But one of the hard things is when, it's light out here still. It's pretty. Is it some? I think we talked about it. I think it's summer.
Oh yeah, we think it's summer.
I think it's summer. Siri or Google maybe says it's summer. Someone tell us in the comments. Is it summer? We don't know if it's summer. But because it's been later out, like because we're in a new neighborhood, and you might even be able to hear our neighbors. They have some kids, and they're always playing basketball, and it's. You hear them dribbling and what are you doing?
Yeah.
Or some yelling or whatever. And it's interesting because we've never really let our kids stay up super late because we want to make sure that they get rest. Mm-hmm. We had one friend in particular. I remember that their daughter like always had like black rings around her eyes, and I was like, oh, our kids are definitely going to make sure they get sleep.
Like they got to be tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's been something that's been challenging, though, because we like to have them in bed by like 6:30, 7 at the latest, when, Willow gets off of work, and then they want to go play in the pool or, figure out what we're going to do or go for a walk. By the time we get dinner around, and then, it felt super rushed to get them into bed so that we could even have any time. And so I think it's kind of been a learning curve for us to learn what does that look like to have flexibility in our schedule.
Yeah, definitely. Because with that summer hours, it is like the kids, they've learned, it's dark, it's time to go to bed. But when it's so light outside, it's so sunny, like they were just in the pool, it's like, time for bed? It's confusing. Why are we going to bed? It's light outside.
I remember that last year. I think it was it Azariah or Malachi? It must have been Azariah because it was light out when we were at the old house, and we were going to bed, and he's like, "It's still light out. It's not time for bed." The logical one.
But then what's funny is I think when it got to be like fall and it was dark out, it was dark
nice.
Super early. It was like, it's time for bed. It's like 5 o'clock.
It's like 2 o'clock. It's like, time for bed. Let's go.
Time for bed.
Okay, 2 o'clock. Let's go.
No, not 2 o'clock. Like 5 o'clock for real though. It's dark at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But it's been a good thing pattern for us to get back into. Kind of, we've talked about this before, of priorities, of finding out what your priorities are in your family and in your marriage, of like, what are the things that are most important? Are you getting those things in? Like, honestly, we haven't gotten in our walks lately. Because we've been tired, and then we eat, and it's like, oh goodness, like going through the whole cycle of bedtime and whatnot, and like, okay, well, let's just let them go play, and that's been fine. It's been fine for now. But I think there is something to be said as parents is giving yourself some grace and some forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like parenting, they don't write books. I mean, I know they write books on parenting. Gosh, I'm going to get like 100 books in the mail, or like comments of like, hey, here's a book you should read, Nathan. Willow, you don't need to read any books. You've already read all the books.
I already looked it up. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But I don't know, like there's nothing that prepares you for being a parent, I don't feel. Like until you're in it and you start learning your kids, because every kid's different.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And you never really know what's going to happen or what's going on. Things change. But then, yeah, every kid is different. Just when you think you're like, okay, this is how we do it, then the next kid is just not like that.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out again.
And it's also interesting, the dynamics too, because it was way different when we just had one child, and it's way more intense with 4 now. But at the same time, we were talking about this last night, that it seems like there's a switch when you go from 3 to 4. Now, we're not quite there to the full 4 because, you know, Sayla's still super young. She's still an infant. But even just looking at the younger 3, the other 3, they're like helping out around the house.
Yeah.
You know, our oldest is wanting to pick up the plates and put them in the dishwasher. We could talk about the reverse psychology used with our kids of not saying that they're responsible enough, or I don't want things broken. It's very,
They get to.
It's a very special occasion when our kids get to do something that, you know, most people would, you know, call a chore or something like that. But it's been very interesting to like see them interacting with one another, or like, and this was kind of challenging to me last night as we were kind of talking about this, is, you know, you want them to still be kids, but you also want them to grow up a little bit and mature. You know, what is that balance? Like,
yeah.
We don't want our oldest to constantly be correcting her brothers and telling them what not to do. But at the same time, we can't always be there to correct them and to like say, hey, we don't say that. We don't hit people. We don't do this.
Right.
So, you know, what's that line?
Exactly. I mean, I always have to remind the oldest is like, you're not the parent. Like, just let's encourage your brothers to do this. Or how could you ask if that's what you're supposed to do? And it's actually really funny because they do that a lot. Because they have this like phrase, they have this phrase that they started saying of like, well, Azariah says it like specifically, like exactly. Are you supposed to do, Rylan, are you supposed to do this? No, you're not supposed to do this. You should do it this way. Malcolm, are you supposed to do that? No, you're not supposed to do that. You should do this. You should do it this way.
They get it from you, because you would say that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Azariah, is that what we should do? No, that's not what we should do. We should not put our fingers in our food.
Yeah. So how could you encourage your brother or your sister instead of don't do that? No, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see them growing up. Mm-hmm. And there are those pieces, even as parents, that you kind of look at your kids and you go, okay, like we're kind of starting to see some of the fruit of what we've been doing, because it is hard. It's not easy being a parent, and doing the difficult things. In fact, I was listening to something today. A comedian, Jimmy Carr, don't look him up. Not the cleanest comedian in the world, but I always get these little short clips of him. And someone asked him, what would you say about being a parent to a toddler? And he said, do you want a serious answer? And so he eventually gave a serious answer, and he said, make the hard decisions now so they can have an easier life later.
Man. Sorry, that's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard for you, isn't it?
It's hard for me because my mind goes to discipline.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, I mean, it is discipline, though. Yeah. Because it's something that we've had countless disagreements and arguments over, you know, how do we go about doing this? What's an offense? What's not an offense? And some would probably say that I'm probably the most strict person they've ever met. But it's also funny, too. Like, you were telling me this. Someone at church came up to you and was asking you, how do you get your kids to sit?
And I was actually going through back in my mind of like, how did we get them to sit there? And it's like, that did not happen overnight. That was very hard. And I was thinking, oh man.
We put the fear of Nathan in them.
But it was me that you too, but like I had a kid run off, not like out of the church.
You have run off.
Malachi, he just books it. He just like, peace, run. I'm like, get back here. Nope, not getting back here. So
was that when you were pregnant?
That was when I was pregnant. Yep,
okay,
because I was walking around. I had to grab the other two. It wasn't that. That wasn't. No, because it wasn't. It was long. It was a while ago. It must have been in the beginning of.
Okay, so there's no excuse for you not being able to catch him. You're just.
No, I could. Yeah. Yeah. So he ran off. Yeah. Man. But anyways. All that to say is just. There have been definitely cases of not sitting in order to get to the sitting piece.
You know, it's funny because because you asked me, well, you were telling me about this, and I was thinking about like, how did we get them to sit? Mm-hmm. And I think actually what it was for that person, because you said that they listened to the podcast, right?
No, I don't think so.
Well, darn, you need to send them the podcast so that they know what we're going to say right now. Just shoot them the podcast after this after what's posts. There we go.
Oh,
But
man.
I think actually what it was is when we started doing, it was actually me more than you, because you have such a nice, kind heart, and I would just get so frustrated with them that I would send them to timeout for like 10, 15, 20 minutes.
A long time
long
out for a
time.
little
I'd be
one.
like, go sit by the door. And they would just go sit at the door. And to be honest, and my kids are going to kill me later for this if they ever hear this. Don't share this with their kids. But there was, and still this happens today, but there are times where I send them to a timeout, and what happens?
I have to come remind you.
Yes.
Don't forget.
I forget.
I have to spell it.
I'm like doing something in the kitchen, and I don't know, they're roughhousing, they're hitting each other. I'm like, go sit in a timeout. And Willow comes out from her office, like, I don't know, 30 minutes later, and she's like, I think the kids are still in timeout. And I'm like, oh gosh. And I go around the corner, and I don't tell them, like, I'm sorry, I put you in timeout for 30 minutes. I didn't mean to. It's I come around the corner and I say, why were you there? Why were you sitting in timeout? Oh, well, we were hitting each other, and we did this and we did that. And I'm like, that's right. Are you going to do that again? Oh, no, okay. Hug and make up and whatever. And honestly, I think that's what it is. I think that's how we've been able to teach our kids how to sit in situations, is sending them to a timeout. I think, even with Malachi, when we say sit still, like Malachi's still flopping around somewhat, and he's still like rolling back and forth. I think with time, as he learns to deal with timeout, I think that'll be a really good thing for them later on in life, is being able to just sit. Because I don't think a lot of us are able to just sit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard for kids to sit still. Well, yeah, because they can't.
I don't think they've ever had models
Really.
or an opportunity to learn how to sit still, though.
I think it depends on the situation, because they have a lot of energy. They're doing stuff. They're interested in stuff. They don't understand, like, sitting still. They get bored. They're doing something, and they're going to get in trouble again.
But there's also this thing of, like, if you start it young, and as they grow older, like, Rylan's 6 years old, and Rylan can sit, like, for a very long time.
Well, I think it helps with, like, having self-control.
Yeah.
So, because, like, if a kid is having a tantrum and they're out of control, they have to calm down, and they slowly have to learn how to be able to get in control. So
Yeah.
they're slowly learning that. But I don't know.
You have to give them the opportunities to do that, though.
Right, you have to give them the opportunities. But yes, eventually I think that helps them, like, be able to sit and do school or whatever. But I don't know if that helped them actually sit in church. I think it was more of the consequences.
Well, when I say sit in church, I mean the byproduct of sitting in a timeout for a longer period of time, like 5, 10 minutes. Even 10 minutes is a long time for most kids.
Yeah.
Our kids can sit for 5, 10 minutes with no issue.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I'm saying is, I think it's become something that they've learned as a byproduct from having consequences, from that moment of, like, me forgetting of, like, oh gosh, I sent them to a timeout.
Yeah.
And it's served them, I think, well, which I think as parents and even as married folk, it's kind of important for us to be able to sit in silence too, because I think a lot of times we don't actually spend time sitting in the quiet with one another.
With each other, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because normally it's easy to, like, pull up your phone or turn on music or the TV or whatever. Like right now, it's silent. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's something that we could definitely work on, actually, is creating silence, because we normally and there's something to be said about having worship music and those kinds of things, but how often are we bombarding our mind with things that we don't have time just to sit in silence?
Yeah, give yourself a chance to think.
Yeah, which I think it's important. What have you been, I mean, this past week, what have you been kind of learning? I mean, we were talking about it before we got on, you're like, I'm not learning anything right now. I'm not doing anything. I'm like, well, I mean, you are learning some things. You're reflecting on things, and you talk about being a parent and that kind of stuff. What have you kind of been pulling out this last week?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it before. I'm like, nothing, because I've been so tired, and just going from, like, work to do the kids to dinner to bed, then up all night feeding Sayla. Repeat. Do. Like, what did I do? I don't know. So I don't know what I learned this week, but I think a couple things kind of came to mind. Like you already mentioned, is kind of enjoying the moment and the time. Like, our kids are growing up. like you kind of said, they're, like, Rylan being the oldest and directing the youngers, and I'm looking at them and they are definitely older, even though they're young, they're older. But it's hard to know, like they're growing up and you don't want to miss out on their childhood or their things, and they're growing up. So I guess I'm just thinking of like all the little things of enjoying the moment. Like I could go put the dishes away right now, or I could go sit with you. Go in the pool with the kids.
That was a chore to get her in the pool.
Yeah, I went in the pool.
And by the way, I didn't throw her in the pool. Let's just say that
I did go in the pool by myself because it was very hot, which is not normal, like in the 90s here.
Did I put new water in? No, that's still the old warm water, wasn't it?
It was not fresh cold. It was like a day old.
It was a mix of cold.
Yeah.
Because we have a hole in our pool.
Yeah, so we have to fill it up like every day, and with cold tap water. It's cold. But anyways, it was
tap
refreshing.
Water? It's hose water, just so you know. I'm not coming.
Hose water.
I'm not going into the house and going to the sink and filling up buckets. Oh, you've got at least 39. Water. Yes, that's tap water. That's hose water. There's a difference.
But it's still like tap water.
It's
worse than tap water. It's going up our kid's nose.
Yes, and it's infecting their brain.
And that's why he was sick.
We need to talk about the crunchy mom movement thing, because it's just ridiculous and crazy. That's what I'm learning this week, is how crazy the crunchy mom movement is.
That was another thing that I thought about. Like, I might need to take...
anxiety pills.
No, I was going to say, I need to reschedule when I'm looking at my phone and when I'm not looking at my phone. Because I tend to, like, only have a minute to look at my phone a little bit before bed, and then I see all of the information about mold toxicity, the water toxicity in your shower.
Did she also mention that this is also the time that she feels like we should start talking? It's right after she's watched the videos. So she sees
terrified, and I'm panicky and I have stress.
Yeah, because you were watching some video about some woman using a product that it spits water into the nose.
Yes, the tap water. Yeah, so some woman did the neti pot with the tap water and got some infection and died.
Which, if you don't know what a neti pot is...
I don't know if that is real. I did not check the source.
Do you want to tell them what a neti pot is? For those that don't make them Google it.
A lot of people know what a neti pot is when you put the
for real human
water up your nose to clear out your sinuses.
Okay. But you know what? I think you misunderstand how many people don't know what a neti pot is. You're in the medical field. Like, you hear of things, and you follow a lot of things. Like, people use these crazies. I'd never heard of a neti pot before. Pot or pod? Neti pod?
Pot. Like a teapot.
Well, that sounds horrible.
It looks like a teapot. It looks like a
teapot into the nose and out the other side.
I mean, people say it works, but I've never done that, and I don't want to.
I mean, yeah, I've heard stories that it works. We have friends that there's definitely people that we know that have used them.
But so the fear gets instilled like right before bed. And so it's like looking at that and then thinking, our kids got their noses full of water playing in the pool with all of that nasty hose water.
How many people do you think died when we were kids because they got
Well, that's what happened. What happened to us?
They lived.
I know. That's the problem.
It's a weaker generation. Let me hear you. It's weaker generation.
It's just toxic now. It's a disaster. It's our poor kids.
See, I opened up a can of worms.
I know. Now you got me fired up.
If you wanted to know what fires Willow up, it's crunchy mom stuff, which is funny because I follow this gal on about crunchy mom stuff, and I send it to her all the time, but she never watches the videos I send her.
I know,
which is funny because even that in itself, like, by the way, like if you've never looked at your social media, that is, and I've heard many people talk about this, if you actually look at someone's social media feed, it's actually a good representation of what their subconscious mind is. It's the things that you meditate on, the things that you're constantly thinking on. Why? Because the algorithm of those social medias constantly feed you those things. So if you look at your social media and all you have is like fear and fear mongering, or everything that you have is like guns in America, or there could be like funny cat videos. If all you ever do is look at cat videos, like there's something subconscious about those things. Like that's what you focus on, right? We've talked about that. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. And that's no different with you. And so it's funny because even that one example of like, I'll send her like funny videos, like, oh, this is a fun little thing, or like this makes me laugh, or here's like a small little inspirational video. And what do I get? I get crunchy mom stuff. I'm like, this guy died from the neti potty. What was it called?
Neti pot.
Neti pot. I like neti potty better. It sounds worse.
It's like the squatty potty.
It's like the squatty potty, but it's for your netties.
Your nose.
Maybe the nose is netty. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I mean, we have been. I feel like you've been learning stuff this past week.
Yeah, but like there are a bunch of little random like tidbits.
But you can take. I think that's important though, because, like, even before we talked, like one of the transparent pieces that I love sharing on the podcast is encouraging people that you don't have to have it all together. Like, we're not perfect. We know you're not perfect. If we're not perfect, you're definitely not perfect.
We're definitely not perfect.
Yeah. Well,
You mean that we're not perfect?
no, I mean they're not perfect. We know that they're not perfect because we're not perfect.
But maybe they are perfect.
Because if we were perfect, then they would definitely not be perfect. Or would they be perfect?
Maybe they're perfect.
But we see them, and we think they're perfect. But then we know we're not perfect, so we must
Right,
think that
because
maybe
nobody's
they're
perfect. It only looks like they're perfect.
Yeah. Did you catch all that? The whole point of me saying that is there are points for us to connect with other couples, right? Like one of the things that I was asking you of like, what have you been reading this last week, right? And you're like, well, I haven't had time to read, which is true. Our daughter's been keeping you up, waking you up like 4 or 5 times in the evening to feed. And how many moms out there have such a difficult time, especially in those first 6 to 9 to 12 months of life. It's really hard to be able to wake up early when you feel like you're constantly being, sleep deprived and whatnot. And I can't get in my reading all the time. I try to wake up early and then the kids are out and it's, oh man, this is really difficult. It's hard. Like for me, I don't know what it is, but as I've gotten older, it's been harder for me to focus when there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Like when the kids are running around and I have my Bible open, I think I get maybe like 4 words.
Yeah, you reread the same sentence, or I reread the same sentence over and over, and then I'm like, okay, this is not happening.
Thanks for telling me that I reread the same 4 sentences.
No, I reread.
You reread the same 4 sentences over and over again. Thanks, babe.
I do.
I appreciate it. But this has been a good week. There have been some really good ups, some lows, and here and there, but that's kind of the whole point of having someone in your corner to be able to walk with, to be able to experience life with, and to have those ups, to have those downs, to have the real conversations. And if you're not having those real conversations, we want to encourage you to do that. What's one inspiring thing this week that just kind of lit your week up?
Lit my week up.
Where it was like a sense of like encouragement.
One comes to mind right away. This seems silly, but it was cool tonight at dinner. We normally ask the kids what they learned, or what they're thankful for, and what they learned in school, and blah blah blah.
We ask them, we had to beat it out of them.
Yeah, we ask them, and it's like, what did you learn?
What was your favorite part of the day? Food.
Yeah.
Really? Like, give us something more. Give us something different.
Yeah. Or what did you learn? I learned to write on the drawing pad. No, that's not what
I learned my ABCs.
You used that to,
Drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy. So, but anyways, tonight Rylan just offered up some information of what she learned today without even being asked. And it was like, good.
It was
confusing.
It was confusing. It was the banana with the brown spot, with the black spots.
She was telling us the story, and she was reading.
She was reiterating the story, retelling it.
We had just worked on that earlier, a few days ago. Like I read her story, and she's supposed to tell me about the story.
Reading comprehension. There we go.
Yeah, read comprehension.
Reading comp. Comprehension. For those of you that aren't catching up with this smarty over here.
No, not
Got
me.
to shorthand everything.
So yeah, that was just encouraging to have her share that.
That's cool.
What about you?
Similar to you, there's a lot of them. I think the one that actually sticks out most to me was we went strawberry. I said we went to go get strawberries. So this last Sunday, we actually went to go pick up a flat of strawberries. And when we got there, they didn't have them.
They were out. They
were completely out, and so it had been a long day
and a long drive.
We found out, and it was like 95 degrees, a very hot day. Drive. We got in the car and started driving, and once we started driving, we realized that our AC in our car is dead. So I was like, just praying. I was like, it's going to turn on, and just hot air just blowing in our faces. So, we have an infant in the back, and
that's another thing I'm freaking out about.
Yeah.
Is she alive back
Is she alive? She keeps asking Rylan, is she breathing? She didn't ask if she was breathing. She's like,
I was trying to indirectly ask her without, instilling fear in her.
What's Sayla doing? She's sleeping.
She's sleeping?
Willow's face is, freaking out. So we ended up going to this road stand for this farm, and they didn't have the strawberries. And so I had all the kids out with me, and then we were going to load back in because we didn't have anything. And Willow's like, I need to feed Sayla. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just go buy some fruit so the kids can munch on it because I needed something to eat because we had just come from gymnastics. We got out, and the guy who owns the farm was there. And so I ended up talking to him for a little bit, and he was like, oh, you have such a beautiful family, blah, blah, blah. Really nice guy. Larry is his name. And so we bought the fruit. I was talking with the gals that were behind the booth. I was heading back to the car, and you came.
Yeah,
you came with Sayla, and they were like, oh, little baby, blah, 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 blah. And then they started talking about Larry, and they're like, you should call him Lorenzo. And I was like, ooh, Lorenzo. And they're like, no, you can't call him that, but Willow can.
Yeah.
So he was already gone at that time. I think he went back to the farm to grab something. So we were loading back in the car, and we were almost loaded. And the ladies were like, he's back. Come meet Lorenzo. And so Willow got out of the car and went to go meet Larry. And so I stepped away from the car to go to see what was going on. And here I see Willow being lifted up off of her feet, and they're spinning around in circles, her and Larry.
Yeah.
Larry is taking my wife. What did he say to you?
I'm taking you to the farm. I'm taking you to the farm.
I'm taking you to the farm.
I think is what he said.
Because you called him Lorenzo,
yeah,
right?
because they were like, the ladies, they were like, Lorenzo, no, with the R's. Lorenzo.
Lorenzo. So absolutely hysterical.
Yeah,
now that might be like what you would think is the icing on the cake. But we left, and when we got home, I had this idea. I was like, okay, well, we're gonna go back on Wednesday, and we're gonna get a flat of strawberries. And when we go back, I want to laser a water bottle for him. And so I ended up searching online. I found a video with his picture in it, or a video of him. So I took a screenshot, grabbed his picture, put it into some AI, and got a caricature, and then I put the caricature on the water bottle with the phrase, "They call me Lorenzo, you can call me Larry." So I ended up going out with the water bottle. I put the logo of the farm on the back, and I handed it to him, and he was just visually emotional. He was just like, thank you. I don't even know what to say. And he said it 4 or 5 times, and he kept shaking my hand. He's like, seriously, thank you. This is amazing. I say all that because that was the cherry on top for this week for me, because it was just one of those things. It was such a small, insignificant thing. I guess it's probably big to most people, but to me, it's just I spent a little bit of time just making something because he made an impact. And because I thought of that, it's funny, he said, we're going to be really good friends. I can just tell. So I don't know, that was just probably one of my highlights for this week.
That was pretty cool.
I enjoyed our time tonight. What did you think?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was different. We'd like to know what you think. Did you like this episode? It's a little bit different than what we normally do. Not a whole lot of points, but we did give a couple points here and there. A little bit more reflective time talking, getting to tell you guys a little bit about what we have been experiencing this past week, how we're growing, how we're not growing, all the things in between. But we do want to say thank you for joining us this time. Make sure that you subscribe. Share this with another couple. We want to be able to reach as many people as we can, as many couples as we can, just to encourage you, to let you know that you're not alone, right? Because that's the whole point of this, more than before, especially as a community. We are more than before as a community when we band together and encourage one another. Anything else you want to say?
That reminds me of we're all in it together, even if it's a mess, as you can see. Yes. Looking at the camera, I'm like, if you have a messy house, it's okay.
Hey, the microphones make this little cool glowy thing on my chest. I feel like Iron Man.
I want one of those.
Man.
It looks like one of those, do you remember those?
Glow sticks?
Yes, the ones you
snap around your,
snap
yeah.
And...
Talk about cancer.
All the things.
Everything's going to kill us. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. Remember to be more.
See more.
And experience more.
Together.